Hi, my name's Cascade, and I'm playing Scythe Digital Edition. I'm going to be working my way through all 7 factions, so it'll be a 7-part series. I'm going to be giving you some tips, showing you my thought processes, and hopefully helping you get better at the game. So I'm just going to randomize this until I get Crimea as the first faction. Crimea is my favorite faction. It's the most Euro faction, and I think it will just help me to explain some basic principles of the game, or at least some principles that'll take you kind of beyond intermediate to advanced level of play. And then I'm going to play through the factions in the order we've got them here. So this is going to be a 7-part series. Crimea first, and then the other ones as we go along. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to skip the introductory animation as soon as it will let me do that. And then we're going to have some bots will have their turn. We're not all that worried about them at this point in the game. They can do whatever they're going to do. I think I've got the animation speed turned up pretty high. So over the first few turns of Scythe, you want to do a few things. You want to get more workers out, usually 5. You want to get a mech so that you can move those workers from the village space somewhere else, because you don't want to just keep producing people. You usually don't want all of them out. Ideally, you're going to get your speed mech, and that's going to get your hero character to your first encounter spot. Every faction on the board has an encounter spot within 2 spots of their home territory, and if you don't start on a village, you've got one somewhere nearby. Some factions do need to go somewhere to get onto a village, and obviously it's all balanced as far as the different advantages. It is a game that is asymmetrical. So first thing I'm going to do after keeping that in mind is look at my player board and decide, okay, what are my first few turns going to be? And I'm going to be taking into consideration mainly my production. Okay, I can produce and do that. Well, I'm not going to be producing much at the start, but I can be working towards that. My trade action has upgrades on it, okay, because often what you're doing is you're producing, trading. That's going to be your first little cycle. And then we're going to have to build a mech, which is located over here. That's a bit tricky. And then move to try and get your people somewhere useful. So we actually need to use all of these. Sometimes you don't have to use all 4 to do that, but we're going to have to use all 4 to do that. So the next thing I would be looking at is, can I do a trade action? Can I get myself set up so that when I do my first produce that I can do the bottom row? Well, no, I can't. But I could go buy wheat, produce, buy wheat, produce. That would give me, on my second produce action, I would get to do the bottom row. If I go produce, buy, produce, that'll also do it. So that's probably going to be the best way around. So yeah, 1 + 2 + 1. I could also try and maybe get an upgrade somewhere along the line, but I just don't think that's going to happen early. And with this faction, because we're going to be using combat cards as a random resource, we want to start getting these combat cards as soon as possible. So produce, trade, produce. It would be nice if we could get some wood so that when we move we can build a building. Sometimes you'll have the setup to do that, and it's going to be tricky to get metal for. Maybe we should be prioritizing the metal rather than this. You know what, we're going to be able to do this anyway. Yeah, this board is a bit tricky for Crimea, but anyway, we persist with it. Okay, let's go. You know what, I'm just going to go with a gut feeling thing here, and I'm going to get some metal. Doesn't really matter where we put it, because we're going to need to build that mech. We're going to find out if I've made a mistake or not. I might have made a mistake on my first turn already. Okay. Produce, we've got people. Yeah, no, I think that was the right thing to do. So we'll trade. We're only going to need 1 metal. And then we could go for oil, since we're going to struggle to get that. Or we could go for this so that we can get an enlistment on our next production run. I'm going to go for oil. I already again feel like that's probably the wrong thing to do. But, you know, that's me and Scythe. You know, so I was always thinking about, well, I could have done something else. So now we can build a mech. but we want to produce one more time anyway. Computer's taking a while to have its turn. Okay, there we go. So we've got our workers. The next time we produce, we should be able to get an enlistment. And now we build a mech. We could have got an upgrade first. Sometimes, depending on your board, you'll be able to get the upgrade first. And then you can get your 3 bolster power on your first time. That's a nice thing to do, but there wasn't really any way to do that here. So, okay, we're going to have that, and then we're going to build a mech. Very nice. And we put it, so almost always speed mech. The purple and green factions, green's over there, doesn't have that speed mech. They have other movement abilities. And then we're going to move. Now, I could have a look and see, could I have gotten a wood instead of the oil? And then I could have traded one more time and then moved and built a building. Yep, I could have done that. I didn't. We might get lucky. We might get a building out of the encounter here. Now, right. We're going to move all these people. And here's the trick. And almost every faction will have this. We're going to move and we're going to drop one off. This UI is a bit... I was playing this yesterday and still this UI here is still a bit finicky. I think we need 3 for that. We need 2. I think that's right. 2 and 3. Yep, I think we'll just go with that. And then we can move our hero character and get our first encounter. And hope it's something good. It almost always... Your first one is the most valuable one. Okay, we don't want another worker. You almost never want to take the one that says gain a worker. You don't want to have an even number of workers because of the way the player board works and the fact that you have the extra production costs every even numbered worker. Having an even number worker is costing you extra, what is it, bolster power, then popularity, then money. You really don't want an even number. You always kind of want an odd number. Gain 2 food and popularity. That would give us the ability to do the enlistment thing early, but I think we're just going to go for a mech, even though we're not really going to have any trouble building mech. And now we have this Wayfarer ability, which is different in a 7-player game than it is in a 5-player game. That can be interesting depending on the player count. I think we will actually just go for Riverwalk. I think Crimea, not every faction really benefits from the Riverwalk as much as you might think. Some factions really do benefit from their special movement ability, but I think Crimea being able to get out onto these 2 spots here, again, it's very Euro-y. It's sort of everything is presented to you kind of in the order that you want to do things, except maybe the upgrades, but upgrades are not as useful as choose 1 or 2 playing as politely as possible. Yeah, okay. No. Did I not? Oh, because I've got to click on the space. Yeah, there's some elements to the UI here that need some work, guys. Knights of Unity just took over this, apparently. Or at least that's the latest thing on Steam, the notice. There's some UI issues in this game. I've played this dozens of times, and I still like, why am I having to wait for something to confirm to go on? Anyway, we're here to talk about Scythe, not this particular implementation of Scythe. Now, what's my next move going to be? Basically, we're going to try and get as many enlistments and whatever out, and if we can, maybe some upgrades along the way. But generally speaking, your first 2 or 3 upgrades are the most important. So we can't do that yet. We can produce. If we produce, we're going to get 2, yes, and we're going to go and do an enlistment. So that's exactly what we're going to do. If you can get an enlistment now, at this point for Crimea, if you can get an enlistment, that's what you do. You should be able to get all 4 of them out. And we're going to go for that because we're planning on doing all of them. So every time we do this in future, we're going to get combat cards, and we're going to go for combat cards because that's going to set us up for our faction ability, which is that we can use combat cards as a resource. And if I'd have played Crimea more often, I might be a little bit more geared into how I could use that to a better advantage. I used to play Crimea all the time. I've kind of banned myself from playing Crimea in real life games now because it's just, you know, it's just too good. I do too well. It's kind of just being lazy. Okay, now we can start. Okay, we just build our mechs. You know what? I would like to be able to get extra enlistment on here if I can. I might just finish that upgrade process. Sometimes we just do something because it feels right, and yeah, so we're going to get that so that when we're building our 2 remaining mechs. And then I'm looking to see, okay, with the bottom row, first thing I want to look for when I'm looking for which of the usually the top row you want to go for this one, bolster and movement. Movement's more important later in the game, but you're going to want to have that at some point if you're going to want to start to attack people, which you pretty much need to do at least once during the game. You're going to want to have the option to move three units. So really this bolster power and this one is good. And then, for example, I probably don't want to upgrade the upgrade option, even though that would make it easier to get other upgrades out, because I'm not getting any money here. Upgrading this would be good because I can be spamming this later in the game for money. I can be spamming this. Probably going to go for the other option would be the buildings, because buildings are going to be hard for me to get. It would be nice when I move to have some wood and be able to build at least one building. I'm going to go for that. So it's not as important as you might think. I mean, technically leftover resources are worth points. So that's, you know, like half a point essentially, give or take. Should probably have a look at my private objectives. Honestly, half the time I don't even look at them. It's not, I think, a particularly strong part of the game. Sometimes it's literally a free point, and sometimes it's completely undoable. Control village territories, control at least 9. This is almost always a really bad idea. I have done it a couple of times. If you can attack someone and they're silly enough to leave a whole bunch of resources on one space, and then you can produce and get it up there, but you're really painting a target on your back. And if you're doing this early in the game, just piling up resources on one square, that's other things you should have been doing. Control 3 village territories. We can probably do this. This is like an end game thing. Okay, I'm going to move, attack, drop people off, control the village spaces. I could have potentially built something on that village space to set myself up for that, but I think I would have been hampering the rest of my early game progress by doing that. So anyway, that's gone now, but that's something to keep in mind for the end game. And what am I doing? Just keep it simple. I can produce. If I produce, I'm not going to be able to do that. Oh no, but I can use combat cards. Haha, haha. So, but I don't necessarily need 3 metal sitting here. So okay, so let's just build a mech. Honestly, this, once you get the first few moves set up, you really should be sort of this move 5 to 10, I think we're up to, is really going to be a lot of bang, 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 mostly. And then we also need to start paying attention to what other people are doing on the board. We're not quite there yet, but really the first half of the game you're setting up yourself, and then you need to be kind of paying attention to what people are doing, especially in a 7-player game, because it gets a bit tight. Okay, we're just going to go for that, and I am going to put one there because I might have the option. I want to have the option to move these people, even though I don't think I probably will. Do that. So now I can just be producing. I'm thinking, do I want to even bother with doing upgrades? I don't know. Upgrades might be completely off the table for this one. If you can just build something, should have probably paid attention to what combat cards I have. If you can just build something on your turn, just build something on your turn. Almost always the best thing to do. Now, since I'm going to be doing this, normally I'd like to probably go for that, but I'm not probably going to be doing this at all. So since this is what I'm doing next, we'll just take the coin. I did lose a game by about 3 or 4 points. Recently, it was a teaching game, and with some very smart people who picked it up very quickly, and the woman who won beat me by about 3 points at her first game, and so I don't always win. And I could have gotten about 5 or 6 points out of this, and I chose not to, and I was thinking, yeah, if that's why I lose, that's why I lose. Anyway, So sometimes games are close and a few points here and there, but I tend to prefer more of the engine building stuff than the just purely getting points thing. But don't underestimate an extra coin here and there, especially if other people haven't built their mechs yet. Now, my second gripe with the way this works is it's kind of a bit finicky and fiddly too. There is a way you can pull this up and somehow you can get it to, so you can see how many mechs each faction has and decide whether your neighbours are likely to be building mechs or not. And if I was playing in real life, I would be looking across the table and thinking, okay, you've only built 2 mechs, you built 1, I've got a couple more left to build. Okay, that's going to be 5, 6, 7 points, whatever it is. Potentially it's 12 points if you... Could you go away, please? Right. Oh. Almost never use that combat card thing there. So, enlist. Mech, enlist, mech, enlist, mech. It's not that... Am I being attacked? Is that on my square or their square? Can't even tell. Again, you are... No, chased, okay. Saxon, you got a staff for combat. Yeah, you gotta watch. It does show you down here what the different... And, oh, you can see what mechs they've got out through that. Okay, righto, live and learn. Okay, we've got all 4 mechs out, which means these guys don't really want to be here, except for the fact that we can keep spamming this for points. And where are we on here? Well, that was hard to see. We are literally 1, 2, 3 away from getting our staff for combat, which means we really should be then thinking about who are we going to attack. That's really going to be our next move. We really would want to unlock this here. So I want to do an upgrade. So then I could move these across to here and do some of that, even though I'm not necessarily wanting a lot of upgrades. We can still produce and do that. Okay, righto. Would have been nice if we could have built a building, but I would have to do this twice. No, only once. What would I use a building for though? Am I going to get all 4 buildings out? Probably not. Okay, is it worth me building any buildings at all? Maybe not. Okay, so then we just move. So the first, 5, 6 turns of Scythe, you're doing the top row and not necessarily the bottom row. And there'll be a period of time when you're doing the top row and then you'll do the bottom row like maybe every other turn. And then there'll be a period of time where you're doing top row, bottom row, top row, bottom row, top row. But then there'll be times when you just need to do the top row action and not worry about it. And this is one of those times. It still would be nice to be able to move though. So you know what? I'm going to upgrade. I'm going to buy a couple of those. We're going to use a combat card. This is where I feel like Crimea is like the Euro faction, because you can, being able to essentially get away with 1 less resource is quite nice. So we want the movement, and I could go... I might have just talked myself out of doing any upgrades at all. Maybe I don't need to do an upgrade now that I've done an upgrade. Would have been nice to maybe leave the windmill here so that I could keep... It's always one turn in the game where you're like, what am I going to do? What's my end game going to be? I think my end game is going to be attack twice, get the point for that. We're only 1 or 2 off getting that. So that's 1 point for enlistments, 2 points for combat, 1 point for that. So then we need either our buildings or our upgrades. So it's going to have to be that we build buildings. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to leave a person here so that we have the option to hit this spot up. Although that's only really worthwhile if we Yeah, if we upgrade some things or do some other things, okay. Might regret not having upgraded the upgrade spot. You know what? Before I move here, I'm gonna hit this one more time, because I want to do this. Get my point for the bolster. Oh yeah, it's costing me bolster power to produce. Okay, righto. Oh, that's the other star. The other star's for combat power. Okay, so there's our 4 stars. And a combat card. And could have got a couple of extra bolster from that if I'd have done that first. I'm going to start building buildings anyway. Though maybe there's no point. Don't know. This is genuinely me playing the game. Right? This is genuinely my own thought processes. Just having to say them out loud for the benefit of the camera. Sometimes you have a thought and then you're like, well, maybe that's not what I want to do. How close are we to the top there? Can do this at any time. We've got those resources there. We don't need to do it now. Could hit this for some wood so that we can build. You know what? No, let's just move. Yes, I want to move. Yes, that's why I clicked move. Take all of those and I'm gonna leave a guy behind because I am. Because if I change my mind and I decide I want to build some buildings, build some mechs, I can. Or if I want to build a building on that spot, more to the point. Righto. I might have been able to attack somebody while I did that. Okay, never mind. And we can't do that. So, yeah, there will be a point in the game somewhere where you'll end up just having to move or having to bolster or having to do something and you don't get to do the bottom row action. I really wouldn't mind having a windmill on here so that I can kind of hit these spots. So in order to do that, I need to reduce. And how am I going for combat cards? You know what? I'm gonna do that. I should have left that metal behind. Why did I take the metal with me? Just force the habit. It is kind of good practice to take resources with you because sometimes you forget that you didn't do that. But I could have left them behind. Yes, I done that. Still 3 points. It's 3 points for me, but anybody else that's got an enlistment, it's a point for them. So it's not exactly 3 points. It's slightly less than 3 points, averaged out over the entire player base, and then it depends on how well your neighbours are doing as to. But 3 is usually worth just getting 3. If it's only 2, you might choose to not do it because if you're getting 2 points and each of your neighbours is getting 1 point, depending on how the whole board state of the game is, it just may not be worth it. You can just and the resources are worth something at the end of the game. So what's my next move? Produce, and it's only produce on 2 squares unless I build the thingamajigger there. In order to do that, I have to move. So before I can build a building anywhere, I would have to move. Is there anything useful that I can gain? What's Saxony? Saxony's really weak. I can't get to the. It's too many moves to get to there. Japan is. They've got a trap. Tricky. Go for mine space. Don't really want to set these guys rust of it. Maybe if I move 2, just get a combat star. But then I would want to be able to build a building and get the popularity and get the 2 coins. That's nice. Okay. Let's just get our last enlistment out. If in doubt, just See, the thing is about moving those two, I only need 2 wood to build a building anyway. So having a 3rd worker there wasn't really helping me all that much. So the fact that I'm only producing on these 2 squares and I missed out on production, it's not really that big a deal. People can tend to worry too much about little things that don't really, I don't know if I clicked the right one, don't matter as much as you might think. If I don't win the game, if I don't win the game, that might be a different story. Saxony's got 3 stars. Russovet's got 2 or 3. Is that 3? No, only 2, and I've only got 2. So I need to get a star quick, which is why I wanted to be doing this. I sort of got sidetracked a bit. Okay, Saxony has moved here. What's my popularity doing? Popularity is not great, so maybe we don't worry about that. I am 1 star off, one space off getting that star. So just attack. They're weak. Russia's not. Would have been nice to have had the wood. I think there's resources over there to be had. You know what? I tend to be a bit too reticent to... Let's go... I don't have... My combat cards aren't really great either. Although I get to steal one, I think. Let's take all those people with us. Why not? I'm going to go on a little... Well, you can't carry people into combat. Oh, well, that's fun. Oh, well. I could undo the whole turn. I'm not going to. Let's do... Well... Let's do this one first. Yes, we'll have a combat card. Okay, it's 12. I think if we go... They're doing this... Actually, righto. I don't mess around with combat, and I suppose if you played with it in real life and you knew that, you might maybe it would change what you do. Almost always, the people I play with, they either go all out or they put almost nothing. You want to always put at least 1 point into the combat so that you get that extra combat card back if you have one to spend. But, like, I'm not going to second guess whether I win this battle or not. I'm going to guarantee that I win the battle, and pretty much that's how I play Scythe. Yeah, see, I could have saved a couple there. Oh, look, I've got the wood over there. I didn't even notice that. I'm going to be able to use that wood to do my bottom row action. Yes, I'll have another combat card. Thank you very much. They got 1 to 5. You know what? I can literally just spend a combat card, and then it's going to make it easier for me to get that star for having my bolster power up at maximum. Righto, so that's 2 stars. That's not a bad turn. It might take me a couple of turns to recover from that. We are going to do that. And so what am I on? 4 stars. So the village thing and the village thing and the and how far off there am I? 1, 2, 3. Well, it's going to be a couple of turns. So if I can bolster, I could have done better with this. Bolster. Actually, trading. If I can build that building. Yeah, you know what? We build that, then we've got more ways to get bolster power. So let's do that. So let's just have... Okay, what's the... next to tunnels. Okay, I don't usually worry too much about it. You know what? We'll just build there, and then if we lose that space, which we're going to... we'll still have it for the scoring thing. I think that scores twice on that one. Okay. Well, we got a building out. I've got that metal over there too now, so that's handy. So So all I really care about is my bolster power, and then I need to do a move playing the village spaces, and that's my end game. I could also potentially have just moved to a village space and get my last few workers out. That's also handy to know. So what am I going to do? That. Yeah, we'll do that. Yes, yes, I know, and it was really handy that Saxony left those resources hanging around. So that's 3 points, and we are 2 off, which means if I do this, that gets me that star. I do have to actually do the bottom row action to do that. I should be paying more attention to what else. If I get attacked, if the AI attacks me, I'd probably just take it and go home. And if I go home, I can get my workers out onto here, and that'll be a star. So, but my personal danger is that I get kind of too caught up in my own thing, and I'm not paying attention to what everyone else is doing. So we do that, and oh, it's got to be with people. Of course it has. And a combat card. It doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. Don't agonise over things. So that should be a 5th star. And then we can move. We've got a village here, a village here, a village here. And potentially I could also do that for a couple more points. Alrighto, getting ahead of myself. There is an option in settings where you can have it so that when you click on units, say just it selects the move option, I think. Okay. If that shouldn't matter. Oh no, that's their monument, not mine. Yeah, okay, I'll take it. It's good practice. What I should be thinking about is if there's some way I can manage it so that I can spread people around while I do that. Actually, you know what? Let's undo. Right. I'm going to go move. Let me think about it, because they're going to block me from there, aren't they? So I could have dropped the person off here and moved to here. That would have been an extra spot. I could... because of them, they're in the way. Could have potentially dropped the person off here. Yeah, no, okay. There's not going. I don't think there's going to be any way I can do it. Doesn't matter. But I suppose it does. Does it matter for endgame scoring? I suppose if you left them on the board, yes, it matters for endgame scoring. Okay, you may as well go there, and you can go there. And I'm not going to be able to do. Oh yeah. Well, it's going to give us a popularity and 2 coins. The popularity will put us over the line. Oh, that's really nice. Okay. And it literally doesn't matter. We'll put that where I wanted that to be all along, even though it doesn't... Oh, I could have put it next to a tunnel. Could I have put it next to a tunnel? No, I don't. That's a tunnel there. I'm not going to redo my whole turn. If I lose by a point, we know why. And that is Crimea, mechanical. It's a tricky start for that one, actually. And then I had a little bit of ambivalence over whether to bother with upgrades or buildings at all. The fact that it made it easy to get my bolster power up so high so quickly meant that really it was going to have to be a military-focused endgame, and also that it helped that I had that objective, which was going to be based on me controlling certain territories. And yes, I did win. So that's gratifying. I'm going to play this series through, and whatever happens, happens. Round 20 is about average. I was looking for, I don't know, what pictures of Scythe or something just for research for this, and I did come across a side that was a blog all about Scythe, and it was like, Crimea, how to win in 14 to 17 turns. And I'm like, yeah, you can memorize things. People memorize the patterns and the setups. This is what to do with this combination of faction and board. This is what to do over your first 5 turns. I don't do that. I just have played the game a lot, and I'd rather devote my brain cells to other things. No slight on people that do want to do that with their life. But yeah, no, that was a pretty decisive victory, mainly because we got to do some really powerful things in the last few turns, and that may not necessarily happen with depending on what other people are doing. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and I've got 6 more to go. If you do like the content, please subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends on social media, comment below if you have any questions, and I'll catch you on the next one.